Columbia. His early years were shaped by ranch life where he herded cattle, rode horses, and learned to operate logging equipment alongside his father, Mike. From a young age, Dave demonstrated a strong entrepreneurial drive. By age 17, he had earned his pilot's license and owned both a Cessna 172 and a Beaver on floats. At 18, he married Lorraine, and together they raised 4 children. At 19, Dave pursued studies in genetics and beef production at Thompson's Rivers University and Olds College. During this time, he worked closely with his grandfather, Charles Flick, and Dr. Bob Church to develop a high-performance cattle bloodline. The program achieved significant recognition, producing a grand champion carcass at the Pacific National Exhibition and topping breed sales 3 out of 5 years in Calgary. Dave expanded his ranching operations to 750 head of cattle before making a major transition into ostrich farming in 1993. At age 20, he also launched a contract logging and road building business in British Columbia interior. He became one of the first in the region to adopt feather bunchers and excavators for road construction, helping modernize the industry. In 1984, Dave moved to Campbell River, where he was introduced to coastal logging, including advanced methods such as feather bunchers and helium balloon logging. He later consulted internationally in Sweden for Crown Zellerbach. He finished his logging career working in the hardwood forests of northern Ontario before transitioning full-time into the ostrich industry. Dave, would you please come up?
Thank you for everybody for coming out. This is a very diverse group, and everybody has to be concerned about what's been covered so far with the DRIPA and the overreach of government. Our government has become so much bureaucracy that there is no realism in what is going on anymore. I'd like to especially thank all of the people that have supported the farm. I apologize for breaking down, but
you got this, Dave.
I would like to thank Dr. Pellick there. The only thing is he took a lot of my information that I was going to talk about. Just a couple of corrections there. When the ostrich first came to Canada, the average selling price for breeders was about $32,500 per bird. And we knew that could never last. It had to come down to a realistic level once the commercial industry got developed. The other thing that happened here when I got here, my computers crashed, so I couldn't give Perry the slide deck that I wanted. But there was, first of all, let's go back a little bit on the ostrich. Why ostrich? They survived the dinosaur extinction because of their immune system. The strongest in the world, and the antibodies that they can produce, we feel, are much better than a lot of the crap that's coming out of the labs. But the government has decided that natural immunity, anything natural, won't be allowed. If it doesn't come out of a lab or a highly confined environment, it's not going to be used in this country. And that's totally asinine wrong. Oh. When they've been on the earth and survived the dinosaur extinction, Steve's already gone over this, so I'll just pass on that. Another thing that Steve mentioned about the drugging of the birds. It's very obvious when we watch the films that those birds were drugged as soon as the CFIA took over. There's no question. Will they admit it? Highly unlikely. The other thing that Steve mentioned there was when we were diagnosed in 2020 with the Pseudomonas disease, and the eggs from 21 actually had H5 antibodies in them. And this was diagnosed at the Abbotsford lab. We're convinced that 70% of the birds that died this year didn't die from H5N1, they died from Pseudomonas. And that's from our personal observations and what we had developed as a treatment for Pseudomonas. Is when they got the treatment for Pseudomonas, they quit dying. And all of that information out there should have been studied. It was an excellent opportunity, and the government killed it. We could have learned so much from it. And the other thing with the disease, when you, in nature, you get a disease like that, you get the full-blown disease. So the antibodies that they would have produced, we feel, would have been the strongest. And the eggs that they destroyed were full of H5N1 antibodies, plus antibodies for COVID. And we wonder why. Why would they do this?
They stole them.
Yeah, they did, probably. I can't say that though, because we don't have proof.
I know they did.
The other thing that really bothers me is they were on the farm because of H5N1, avian flu. And yet when two of their people were out having a meeting with us, and we were talking and we showed them the birds, they said, you know, they're not sick, look at them. And they said, well, how do we know that you did any experiments with antibodies? In 23, we'd answered the call for helping the government with COVID. We produced antibodies, like Steve pointed out there, for the masks. We had a $3 million order from a mask manufacturer. The problem, we produced the antibodies, they went broke, unfortunately, before we got any money. And because we were short $3 million in cash flow in 21, it made our farm look terrible. We couldn't pay our bills. We couldn't do the infrastructure improvements that we needed. And when Mr. Kelly and Fifth Estate came out, they made a big point of that we don't pay our bills. They knew the reason, but they didn't bring that out. I'm going to digress a little bit here. When I came in, I noticed that this paper was on the chairs there. And this was written by Dan Nelson. He's a substacker from Nelson, BC. And he wrote a very, very good article about the Fifth Estate and what they did right and what they did wrong. And you should read it, because he gave Kelly good kudos for past reports, and he pointed out where he went wrong this time. But what they really went wrong on was the accusations, implications that they made against the farm. Okay, could we go with the start there? I'm not a professional speaker, as you can tell. Okay, just go along there. Okay, stop there. Oh, this is where they made the what they said about our unpaid debts, and it confirmed it. And I just covered this a little bit about in 21. We had a $3 million order that caused us problems, and this short, I already covered this one. Okay, go to the next one. Oh yes, Dr. Fasano. Dr. Fasano is a highly regarded researcher, doctor at, I think it's MIT, not Harvard. Anyway, Dr. Fasano has discovered what causes leaky gut for a lot of diseases. And he was working with Dr. Stu Greenberg and Dr. Tsukamoto on developing antibodies for many other diseases. And when Dr. Tsukamoto and ourselves, we had Struthio Bioscience, and we were merging his company with our company. And so Mark Kelly says, yeah, he interviewed him. And Dr. Fasano said, yeah, no, we don't know Dave and Karen, but they certainly knew Ostrich Farm USA because we were merging with them. And so it wasn't Dave and Karen that put them on in the business plan. It was Dr. Greenberg's company. So this is just the way they twist things. And when Mark first came and Harvey, they were okay guys. And we said to them, well, you work for CBC? No, we're independent, you know. We don't take our orders from CBC. I call that bullshit. They take their orders from CBC. CBC gets over $1 billion a year from the government. Who the hell are they going to support in putting out false information? They're going to support the government. And fortunately, my good friend Mike here and Karen, when they did the interview with me, when Fifth Estate interviewed me, we recorded the 2-hour conversation. And when you compare the information that we have compared to what they used, it's very, very obvious that they were not supporting us at all. I don't mean supporting us. They weren't even reporting correctly. And so when this information came out from Dan, and he did a breakdown on it, so he had a lot of information that wasn't quite right. And so that's why we're just correcting a little bit of it now. I asked Dan, I've never met Dan. He was very open about his feelings. And when I talked to him, when I saw his subcast, I got a hold of him and said, hey, do you mind if I use it? And he said, no. We talked for quite a while. He said, use it however you will. And so I said, well, I'm going to put a few corrections on it. And he just sent me an email. I got just a text before this. He says, hey, thank you for the information, because that changes things a lot more. Okay, the $2 billion in revenue within 5 years. The financials weren't done by me. They were completed by a mathematical graduate from MIT in Boston with years of experience in this. So it's a professional that did these projections, not dumb old me. And Lyle Oberg. Lyle Oberg is, most of you would probably know Lyle from his background as minister under Klein's governments in finance, health, transportation. He originally met us when he was going to Mexico. He'd heard about our ostrich oil products. And he dropped by the farm and said, hey, I'd like to try your oil products. And so we gave him some oil products to take to Mexico and cover his skin conditions. And we became close. He really liked it. He really liked what we were doing. And he may disagree with the projections, but he certainly understands the science and value of naturally produced the ostrich antibodies. But the way the Fifth Estate says it, it made it look like, no, he doesn't agree with our projections. It's just a twist. We covered this already. Oh, except for, I don't know. I don't think the courts have said we owe $500,000. I think that's about double what we do owe through the court system. And it's interesting, one of those cases was we'd sold some breeders to a young guy, single dad, and $42,000 sale. He didn't advance. He paid $30,000 and was going to pay the rest when he picked up the birds. He ran into problems, and after a year he said, I'd like to, can I get my money back? We should have said, no, you still owe us $12,000. But we said, no, we'll get your money back. When things turn around, we can sell the birds, you'll get paid. So he took that us saying that we owed him $30,000, went to court, got a court order, when we should have just said, to hell with you, you owe us $12,000. So there's usually a story behind all of these different situations. Oh, and then when he was talking with the detractors that we have locally, the first thing that came out there was that people were smelling burning ostrich carcasses. That's how they found out about it. We never burned any birds. We maybe should have, but we never did. We went just like the CFIA, just buried them. Did he check to see if that was a true statement? No. The one thing that did happen, it was very, very unfortunate. We have a neighbor, Lois Woods, which I've known for 50 years, almost 50 years anyway. And yeah, there was some, not conflicts, but just different things that happened. And the attack on Lois by an individual that was there was very, very unfortunate, and apologize to her profusely for that. We don't know exactly what happened yet, and I would like to say some more things, but I can't. The people were not singing and laughing at Lois. They saw the RCMP coming down the road, and that's where everybody's focus was on. These are all very good statements there. Oh yeah, this is one thing, and Steve has touched on this a little bit. The four in the court case, the four witnesses that the CFIA put forward, when they were cross-examined, we just were laughing because in the cross-examination, the way they answered the questions, when they did answer truthfully, supported the farm more than the CFIA's position. And with Ms. Rasmussen, I don't think she'd ever make it as a vet. There's a little misconception there. It's not $250,000. It's only $200,000 fine if we treated a bird. This paper is sitting on most of the chairs, and when Dan got to reviewing, like telling Mark Kelly what he should do is come back and look at the other side of it, he's got some very, very good points there. Can you imagine the CFIA spent $1.3 million in legal fees? What did they do? All they stood behind was the policy, or the government. They don't have to test. That's what most people don't realize. They do not have to test to come on your farm and order the destruction of all your animals. And I couldn't believe it until the judge wrote it in that paper. How could the CFIA give their lawyers $1.3 million for prosecuting against us? It's insane. We spent $500,000 on legal bills, and we had to do all of the fighting. And because the law said that they would only look at the data prior to the cull order, so all the work that Steve did and the other expert witnesses, they wouldn't even look at that because it came out after a false cull order based on just an H5 test. And this one really, really gets me. When the appeal process happened in Vancouver, we wanted to change the date, so we'd asked for a correction to the date. On CFIA letterhead, their lawyer wrote and said, "We have selected the judge, we have bought his tickets, the date has been changed, and we're not going to allow it to change." That didn't come from court letterhead. That was the CFIA saying, "We have selected the judge." And that's what this country is coming to. It's not just the ostrich, it's not the farmers. The ostrich are martyrs. And it has to wake everybody up. How does everybody get woke up in this country to what the hell is going on? The previous speakers have outlined it very well, but how do you get people to wake up? When you look at the over-bureaucratic system that we have now, and I was talking to my friend Ken there a little earlier, Ken Falk, he's had a lot of experience with, and he made a comment to me there that when it ends in agency, that bureaucratic arm does whatever the hell they want. They're not limited by the ministers. Our politicians are confined, they're ruled by the bureaucracy. I had my eyes opened up back in '93 when we built the quarantines in Africa. I built quarantines in Zimbabwe and Namibia and the UK in order to fly the birds to Canada, and then they were quarantined here. We can go down there and pick up a disease and come back next week. But with the animals, it's a long, long process. In '93, when we had to deal with the CFIA, what is now the CFIA, it was under Agriculture Canada at that time. They were good to deal with. They were reasonable. You could talk to them, you could understand them, and I had no problems with the CFIA. But over the last 30 years, it's gone haywire. There's 6,000 people work for the CFIA. There's a lot of good people there, and there's a few at the top that make all the rules without scientific consideration at all. or what they're doing to the farms, it is so different. It's gone so, regressed so far. And it's not just with the farms, it's not just the CFIA. It's also, look at what the doctors have to do now. They can't even make a decision. They're told now by this new board that's coming up what they can say and what they can prescribe. The lawyers, they're coming under a bureaucratic regime now also. We have to wake up and reverse what is going on. Another very good question. Why, when they murdered these animals, why did they do it in such a horrendous situation? And the only conclusion that you can come to is they want to tell everybody else, look at these dumb farmers. They spent $500,000 in legal fees and we still murdered their animals. Who's going to stand up to them? They did it just as a bully move to say, we're in control and we're going to do whatever the hell we want. I'm sorry I got way off track here from what I was planning to say when I started. I've got so many other incidents. Did I happen to mention to you, I don't think I did, but I'll tell you now. When they were on the farm looking for the H5N1, that's what they were supposed to be there for. And they asked us, they said to us, how do we know that you did research? And so we told them about developing the antibodies for Omicron. Omicron was supposed to be the pandemic. Bonnie Henry mentioned it for a few days, found out that of the 44 cases in BC, 37 were double vaccinated. That meant that their vaccine did not work. The same ratio as vaccinated to unvaccinated. At that same time, we had sent our antibodies off to the lab in Quebec, and they got a hold of us right away and said, hey, you have 98% efficacy in neutralizing Omicron. So we're on cloud 10. And then we didn't hear from Fred for about 10 days. And he phoned and said, hey Dave, we got a problem. What's up, Fred? He said, we've been bought out. Your program is permanently shut down and we're under non-disclosures. So what do? We realized, hey, we can't fight Big Pharma. So we went into the supplement for a weight loss program and worked with Dr. Tsukamoto on a weight loss program which would compete with Ozempic and Wegovy. We put out a diet pill at less than half the cost with no side effects. It only affected, the antibodies only stopped the absorption of starches, sugars, and carbohydrates. Did not affect protein. That's the way it was designed. And so you lose weight without losing your muscle mass. At half the price, with no side effects, that's why that $2 billion number was up there, because that's what it would have been worth. So when Courtney Fotheringham and I forgot the other guy's name, they were there and they said, okay, we explained this to them. And they said innocently, well, where do you keep them? Where do you keep the antibodies? In the freezers, in the basement. We're coming for them too. Nothing to do with H5N1. And why in November of 24, a month before we got any virus on the farm, were they negotiating with the local landfill? I'm sorry, I get a little worked up sometimes. But how do we get the message out to the people that they have to wake up and see what is going on? I'm way off my subjects here. Okay, well, thank you, and if there's any questions, I'll answer questions.
RCMP for 10 years and owned the Highwayman Pub for 45.
Oh, nice one.
I've been working with animal justice and animal, helping animals that have been mistreated.
And come on up.
I myself have dealt with the CFIA, or animal justice, just recently.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Okay. Our animal justice system, they just took CFIA to court, and I know it's a little bit off the thing, but it's what they do. We took them to court because they were shipping horses out of Manitoba to Japan in a very cruel, horrid way. Some of the horses ended up there, they stood up for something like 26 or 30 hours. I don't have the exact stats with me. And some of them died en route. When they got to Japan, I can't even begin to tell you the cruelty, and I so sympathize with you. I've sent you I don't know how many donations, and my heart is there, trust me. It's disgusting what they're allowed to get away with. So in the court system, I just got information last week. What happened was the court found, the animal justice took them to court for cruelty to animals. Basically that terminology, I guess. And what the courts came back with was, oh, it wasn't their fault, it wasn't CFIA's fault. It was the people that they gave the horses to ship to Japan. It was proven beyond a doubt that they knew that those flights would be delayed, but those horses were still loaded up, starved, standing up, all that way, all over the place. And that's what they get away with. Now my other, from Abbotsford, when the, all that, what do you call that? The avian or whatever they call that anyway, came out and all the geese and everything were dying. It was the rescue people here in Abbotsford, here in Langley, that went out to Mill Lake and picked those dead geese or wounded or whatever you want to call them up, and took them out to the what do you call that, the laboratory out here or whatever. It wasn't CFIA. Where were they? I mean, that's really that bad. So they had to dress an elderly lady. She's about, I call her elderly, actually. No, I'm not looking in the mirror anymore. Not letting that old lady in yet. But I think she's now 71. She was out at Mill Lake in a hazmat suit. Where was CFIA? They weren't there. And I'm telling you, the other person who lived half a mile away from an outbreak on one of the farms, he had some pet chickens. They came half a mile. They came over, never tested, never, just killed them all, and away they went. It is out of hand, and I don't know how to fix it. And I know that some of you don't believe with the freedom of convoy, with convoy freedom or whatever, but I sure do, because they tried. And I don't know how it's going. I just know that dealing with and getting that court sentence back, saying that it wasn't their fault, just showed me there's nothing you can do. What I mean, I don't mean it in that way, but that's what it's come to: a crooked, friggin' corrupt government system.
They think
Thank you for listening.